Hello to all, welcome back to yet another video in our survival guide to Algebra 1. Last week we took a look into the wonderful world of factoring. We learned how to take a complex equation and break it down into small, easy to solve parts. But what if we can't do that? What if we can't solve the equation by factoring? In cases like these we have to use something called the quadratic equation. To start off, what is a quadratic equation? A quadratic equation is a specific type of equation with a variable. Like we saw last week, this variable is usually x. It's not just any equation with x though. Quadratic equations have x to the power of 2, usually called x squared. In many cases, we can just use factoring to solve them, but what if factoring doesn't work out so nicely? Take, for example, the equation 3x squared plus square root of 52 times x plus 4 equals 0. Factoring this all is impossible. Seriously, if you don't believe me, try factoring it at home. You'll quickly realize there's no easy way to factor this. In cases like these, we use something called the quadratic equation. The quadratic equation is that x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, something important to notice is that this equation finds the value of x when the original equation equals 0. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, take a look at this. Every quadratic equation follows this template: ax squared plus bx plus c. Taking each of these letters and putting them into the quadratic equation, we can solve for the values of x. For example, with that equation I just gave a bit ago, we might not be able to factor it, but we can solve for it by the quadratic equation. Looking at it, we see that a is 3, b is the square root of 52, and c is 4. Putting these values in for x and solving for what we can, we actually get two answers for x. X equals negative the square root of 52 plus or minus 2, all of this divided by 6. Seeing how this is the simplest form we can get without a calculator, these are the answers we would actually give. Let's go over another example problem just to make sure you've got it down. X squared minus 8x equals 15 fourths. Now pause the video and see if you can solve this one on your own. Alright, now that you've given it a try or ignored me, let's figure this out. First things first is to make sure everything is on one side. As you probably remember, we must have the equation equal 0. In this case, it's as simple as subtracting 15 fourths from both sides and we get this. Then we try factoring. Now, I'm not going to walk through how to do that here. Check out our last video if you need help with factoring. Turns out you would quickly realize that there's absolutely no way to factor this. And so we use the quadratic formula. In this case, a equals 1, b equals negative 8, and c equals negative 15 fourths. Plugging it into the equation and solving gets this. X equals 15 halves and x equals 1 halves. Once again, we have two solutions. And we can easily check this by plugging either value in to the original equation for x. And we see that it all checks out. And that's everything about the quadratic equation today. Next week, we'll be taking a look at adding a second variable to the mix, a new friend we're going to call y. But for now, thanks for watching. Until next time, keep on learning.